Hello and welcome back to Flipped Psychology. I'm Miss Lee. We are still in Unit 4, Lifespan Development, and in this video we're going to be covering Section 3, Adolescent Development. Our objective is to describe the physical, motor, cognitive, and moral changes that occur during adolescence. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and grab your notes and let's get started. So there are some very notable physical changes that happen in both males and females during adolescence. Notably is what we call an adolescent growth spurt, and this usually lasts a period of about 2 to 3 years. During this time, there is obviously really super rapid growth, and an adolescent can gain somewhere between 8 and 10 inches in height during this period of time. It is indeed a period of rapid growth. During this period, we also see the onset of puberty. This is considered to be sexual development, and it is the biological stage that leads to the ability to reproduce. Specific changes that happen in males. The testes increase the output of the hormone testosterone. So if you think back to our unit that included the endocrine system, the testes are the gonad for males, and it produces primarily testosterone. This is what's going to cause the boy's sexual organs to grow, their voice to deepen, and hair to grow on their faces and later on their chest. During this period of rapid growth, boys develop broader shoulders, thicker bodies, as well as develop more muscle tissue. The physical changes that will eventually enable a male to reproduce are considered primary sexual characteristics. These other physical changes that help you to differentiate between a typical male and female are considered secondary sexual characteristics. Physical changes in females include hormones from the pituitary gland stimulating the ovaries to secrete more estrogen. Again, if you think back to our unit that included the endocrine system, the ovaries are the primary gonad that is going to lead to puberty. So this increase in estrogen is going to produce a growth of breast tissue, supportive tissue in the hips and the buttocks, making the pelvic region wider and hips rounder. Girls do produce a small amount of androgen in the adrenal glands that stimulate pubic and underarm hair. The first menstrual cycle usually happens somewhere between the ages of 11 and 14. So our primary sexual characteristics include the changes that will enable the girl to reproduce. The secondary sexual characteristics are going to be everything else that's physiological but does not directly lead to reproduction. During adolescence, parents' and peers' influence somewhat shifts. You predictably see teens spending more time with their friends and less time at home. They're more involved in activities. School is taking on much more of an important role. And teens become more independent, and disputes with parents arise over issues like rules, curfew, homework, and money. Again, they're somewhat related to independence, right? However, teenagers continue to need and rely on parents and usually agree with them on issues like moral values, educational, and career goals. So there are still some very important influences from parents. Adolescents are influenced by peers because they provide friendship, support, companionship, and advice. Adolescents are faced with some pretty challenging issues, and some developmental theorists have called this a period of stress and storm. There's some controversy over whether that is true or not when you compare it to other age groups, but certainly adolescents begin to start dealing with things like eating disorders. We're going to talk about that in the next slide, so just hang on to that. There is an increased challenge related to substance abuse. There is an increased challenge related to sexuality, such as how and when to express it. And finally, on this slide, you see juvenile delinquency. There's participation in illegal activities, and juveniles are faced with illegal activities that are only illegal because they are juveniles. Things like going to school, truancy, or curfew. Adults don't usually have to deal with curfew. So just before we round out this section, I wanted to talk about eating disorders. A very large percentage of people who are facing eating disorders are adolescent females, and the two big ones that historically have been present are anorexia nervosa, which is a life-threatening disorder, and it's basically self-starvation. It's an unhealthy body mass and a distorted body image. So what you are looking at in the mirror mirror is not what other people see. It's not based in reality. It is now included in the DSM-5 as body dysmorphic disorder, and it very much influences the persistence of eating disorders. Bulimia nervosa is recurrent binge eating, which is followed by dramatic measures to eliminate food like vomiting, the use of laxatives, that type of thing, over exercising. Last but not least, and this is not included on the slide, but I wanted you to be aware of the fact that binge eating disorder is a thing that is diagnosable. This is where you have periods of overeating, usually very unhealthy foods, and this is with or without trying to eliminate the food. So let's go over what we talked about in this very short video. We described the physical, cognitive, and moral changes that occur during adolescence. We discussed the other changes in a previous video. In our next video, we'll be covering adult development. I can't wait to see you then. Bye for now.